Welcome to the first session of WPCampus online. I am Lacy Paschal from Vanderbilt University, and we're going to be talking about Level Up, merging all the things. So if you are not in the right session, then go to room 1. If you are in the right session, then yay, we're ready to go. So again, I'm Lacy, living in Nashville, Tennessee. Love Nashville, have been here for about 16 years now. Have an almost 3-year-old, Hayden, and between work, family, and everything, that keeps me pretty busy. And have been at Vanderbilt for 9 years now. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro into WordPress at Vanderbilt, so you just kind of have an idea of what we do with WordPress at Vanderbilt. A lot of you may have already heard me speak at other places. We are not a 100% WordPress campus. We have a lot of WordPress at Vanderbilt, but we also use Omni Update. So we kind of use both of these platforms depending upon what needs the client has. So for us today, we're focusing on our news multi-site. And our news multi-site currently has 91 users that are in there editing, posting content, managing the tags, because we have thousands and thousands of tags in there, because that's a primary thing that we work with. Currently, I think I checked last night, there's 17,194 published news items. So then we have lots of other WordPress instances at Vanderbilt. We have our my.vanderbilt.edu multi-site, which is a self-service WordPress platform where students and faculty and staff can go on and create a website, and they don't even have to involve our office unless they need help. And that's got about 2,000 sites and almost 6,000 users. We have a student organizations multi-site, and that is all of the student orgs across campus use WordPress for their websites. And that is about 400 sites, about 2,000 users. And obviously you guys all work with students, so you know those 2,000 users are constantly changing as well. So that one is definitely an interesting one. Then we've got a cross-domain multi-site. That's kind of what we call it, because that has sites that are on different domains, different subdomains, or they might have a site that lives in the root www.vanderbilt.edu. And so that's kind of a just catch-all for a lot of different ones. And that one, I've got a note on here because this is such a huge project for my team right now. That one is actually cutting over to AWS tomorrow. And we have been in progress on that for quite a while. And then we have individual installs of WordPress left. And we only have 18 of those left, which is a miracle. And we are very excited to only have 18 individual installs left. And those will all actually be moving into a multi-site. So again, we do a lot with WordPress at Vanderbilt. So we are big WordPress fans there. So what we're going to be talking about today is how we simplified how we do news and how we do storytelling at Vanderbilt. Before we started this process, this is basically what would happen. And all of you work at universities, so that you know that universities are basically like little countries where every department and school kind of has their own rule of law and how they do things, and they all want to have their own things. And so it is definitely it's definitely an interesting kind of situation that we all find ourselves in, of figuring out how to make that more efficient and how to centralize things and how to help people understand that centralization is not a bad thing, that it's actually a really awesome thing, and it'll make everyone's work better. So before we started this, this project of trying to simplify and centralize, we would have one story, and it was the same exact story, and it would be getting posted on the general news website, on an employee news website, and then it might be posted on a magazine website for the school. It might be posted on the research website. It might be posted on the medical center website. This is the same exact content, posted at least 5 times, many times even more, depending upon what the content of the story was. So one thing that we really wanted to address with this was, because we are all one big university, we share a domain. And so you actually get dinged for SEO when you have the same exact content on multiple pages of your website. So when you're talking about a university where we are all Vanderbilt.edu, then we were getting dinged for every single time someone would repost a story. And again, it was the same exact story. There was no new photos, there were no new headlines, anything. They're just like, oh, we want this to be on our website. So they would post it again. So the SEO reason was one of our hammers we used when we were talking with groups about why we needed to centralize, because that was a no-brainer of this is a bad thing that we're all doing. So let's not do this bad thing anymore. So in the new world order, this is what this looks like. We post the story one time. It's amazing. And then we make it available on multiple front ends and front doors. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So we post that story one time, and then we make it appear on our general news site, the employee news site, a magazine site, the research site, the medical center site. The department that is mentioned in it could pull that news onto their website. The funding center that did it, that funded the research, could pull that through. The faculty member who has their own website can pull a feed of news items that are tagged with their name. And we are not duplicating content. So we are posting this story one time, and it's going to appear as many places as we want it to appear. So what we have merged so far, and I keep trying to find more things that I can merge. So can anyone hear sound? Is someone having problems hearing sound? Okay, I'll continue. Basically, what we have merged so far is our main news service website. So that's what we started with. And that was obviously my Office of Web Communications, my team. We sit within public affairs at Vanderbilt. And so the news service was actually the easiest one because that's actually part of our department. And so that one was a no-brainer. So we've got the news service, and then we have a video team here that does video news and video stories, and so that was Viewcast. So we pulled that one in. MyVU, we are a university, but we also have a medical center, and so we have a crap ton of employees. We have approximately 29,000 employees, and so internal employee communications is a very, very large responsibility of the university to kind of make sure that everyone knows what's going on with HR things and just with the university and community as a whole. And then we used to have these old websites. The Exploration University Research site was actually a flash news website that was, I don't even have words for what it was like when we used to have to post content on that site. Wow, I mean, I'm like almost having PTSD just thinking about that. And then we had Lens, which was a medical center research website. And then we've got Experts at Vanderbilt. So we do have a very large, we've got, a lot of faculty like all universities do. And part of our news services responsibilities are pitching our faculty to the media for doing stories. And so we have a pretty large experts section of the website, which tracks, where our faculty are speaking. If they appear on NBC or MSNBC or CNN or something like that, then we're tracking all of that, and then we use that to then continue pitching them. And then the most recent thing, which was actually a little while ago, that the big thing that we've pulled in would be our medical center news, because again, they used to have their entirely separate kind of news instance. And so all of these things used to be separate websites. And there are a couple that I'm not even including on this list anymore because since they have been moved, the entity with which they represent kind of went away, but the news that they're producing is still part of it. So there were some magazines that we migrated in, and those magazines, the print versions, have gone away, but the editors and the writers for those are still around. And so they are, they're currently still in there. So merging all of your internal content sources. This is what, when you are talking with people about, if you're trying to do this at your institution, the power of merging is kind of undeniable. Even if you just take SEO out, there's so many other reasons why it's so powerful. So once you merge those, it makes your content more manageable. Obviously, having a story posted once instead of multiple times means less time is spent formatting the content for all the individual sites, less time spent correcting things. I can remember the days when we would have a story that was posted 5 or 6 times, and then all of a sudden it would come back in that there was something that had changed, and we would then have to spend 20, 30 minutes going around to all of the different places that that story had been posted. So it is far more manageable. It's more useful. Having a large content source available means that all of our colleges, departments, and organizations can choose to use our news feeds on their websites instead of maintaining their own news sources. So this means that their staff is not having to kind of duplicate efforts. And we always have all of the latest stories because we are part of Vanderbilt News. And so it's always well written with photos and illustrations. And it's always been vetted by the faculty that are involved. And so it's really a no-brainer that it's more useful. The content becomes more interesting because all of the content is in a shared system. We can easily guide the reader along to something else that they might be interested in because, again, it's all in one big bucket. So we can see, oh, they're reading a story about breast cancer. Well, here's 30 other stories about breast cancer that are in various Vanderbilt News stories. It's more interactive. We're currently using Discuss for our comments and interactions on the stories. And it allows us to easily kind of pull through various social comments about the story as well as regular comments. The nice thing about having comments on the story itself being in one location is that all of those comments are in one location rather than they're spread out, which means a little bit more interaction there. And long lasting, that's also tied to the interesting because the content is all in one bucket. You might have a story from 4 months ago about a topic show up as a related story for a newly developed story, and so you're going to start getting clicks on that. I'm getting distracted by the questions about people not having audio. I'm so sorry, and I also don't put a lot of words on a lot of slides, but I will post my notes later if you're not getting my audio. So we have merged all of our content sources. So in order to do this, you have got to have a really kind of bulletproof content strategy for how you are going to handle all of these stories. And so our content strategy is that we provide multiple front doors for our content. And so what this is doing is this handles the political question, which is one of the big questions. The political question of, well, I want my own news website. So for instance, the research stories, well, we want to have our own research website. We want to have our own internal employee news website. We don't want it to just be Vanderbilt News. And so what we do for that is, again, we provide multiple front doors for your content. So here's what we would call a front door. And again, I'm going to just show 4 examples. So the main Vanderbilt News website is one front door. And so that's pretty much going to be the overarching kind of big bucket of news. And so that's going to consist of, okay, over here, I figured yesterday I can do like a Q and then point at things. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to have a featured story over here. And then we just pull through latest stories here that are tagged releases. That's what actually is pulling through here. We pull through featured videos over here, some featured research stories here. We're going to highlight a featured expert. So if there's a topic that's really hot in the news right now, we're going to highlight that we have experts available that can talk to the media about them. Here we're going to pull through quotes where our faculty or Vanderbilt has been mentioned in the news. And so we're going to highlight something of where, Vanderbilt has appeared in the news. And so, a lot of this changes on a daily basis. So especially in the news will change daily, because we do a daily compilation of every time Vanderbilt's mentioned in the news. Then we're going to pull through over here stories from around campus. So different magazines and different stories that would be around campus there. And then we're pulling through just some social media here. So that's one front door. So then another front door would be our internal employee news. And so this is news.vanderbilt.edu/myvu. Again, this is all the same WordPress instance. This is all the same WordPress. So we've got this one. So over here, we're going to pull through featured stories that are just for MyVU. So this would be a different featured story than what we featured on the other website. The latest stories here, again, this is going to be the latest stories, but only for this particular front door. So it's not all of the latest stories, it's only the ones that are applicable to employees. Then we're going to pull through a featured video here. Over here, we're pulling events from the calendar that are related to MyVU. And then we've got news from HR that we're also pulling through here. So that's another front door. So then another front door is our research news at Vanderbilt website. Again, this is all pulling from the same WordPress. So these are going to be stories that are categorized for research. They could appear on any of the other front doors. That's kind of the magic of all of this, is all of these stories can appear in as many places as they need to. It's still that one story. So we've got the research story. We're going to pull through featured research stories. And then we actually have buckets for our research categories. So you're going to see, health and medicine research, social research, earth and space research, etc. So we're pulling those through. Again, we've got featured videos that are related to research. That's pulling through. And then we have our medical center. And this is going to, Jared, this is actually one WordPress instance. It's not even different sites in a multi-site. This is one WordPress site in a multi-site. So this is the medical center, and so their front door, again, is going to only include medical center stories. And so they're going to include medical center featured stories, their latest stories that are tagged for the med center, events related to the med center, and they have a bunch of just kind of different sections. And then they also are pulling through stories from around campus, but only stories that are related to the med center from around campus. So what these front doors are is a page template. So in our WordPress theme, we create a page template for each front door that we need to create for all of these different groups. So we go in and we create a new page in WordPress. So for instance, the MyVU page, we've got, here is that URL that I was just talking about, news.vanderbilt.edu/MyVU. And then we're applying our MyVU homepage template. Let me go back really quick. So right here, we've got all these page templates. So basically, we've got this page template, our template name. I pulled the incorrect template name that I was referencing here. But just imagine this is MyVU, or imagine that's research, either one. But we have a bunch of page templates here. So we've got a template name, and we're calling it the research homepage. So we're on that page, and so we're wanting to include different headers and footers, and obviously stuff in the middle. So we're going to pull, gets popcorn, that's great. We're going to pull in our research header here at the top, because we know we're on this research page. And then we're going to pull our footer research, because we're on this page. So then in the middle is where we're going to say, okay, we're on this page, so now what else do we want to do? And then I don't even know why I put this in this part of the presentation, but I couldn't figure out where else to put it. So one of the huge things that you have to do when you create this is you're going to want to go into your themes function files, and you're going to want to define all of the different image sizes that you're going to need for all of your different front doors. So what that means is, we have all of these various front doors, and we have different sized images appearing depending upon what that front door is. So when you're on the MyVU website, for instance, which is the internal employee website, no, somebody does not need to do those images manually. So when you're on the MyVU website, you're going to have rectangular shaped thumbnails showing for all the latest stories. But when you're on the medical center one, you're going to have square shaped thumbnails. And then some sites have a slider image that is one size, and another site might have a slider image that's slightly bigger. And so what we do is anytime someone's going to upload an image, we automatically are going to generate all of the sized images that we're going to need for all of the things that we're doing. And this also includes HTML emails, which I'm going to talk about later on. And so I've just included like 4 of these here. And so we go through and we say every single thing that we might need an image size for, we're going to create these. And then we're going to pull those through in the content. So this is a weird place to have this, but I figured we're talking about doing the templates. So here we go. So here's an example of, and I hope you can see this on the preview, it looks kind of weird. So we're on our featured research page. We're on our research front door. So at the very beginning, what we want to do, which would be for that big slideshow, we say we're going to query and we're going to say we want all of the posts in our, and again, these will be posted online so you can look at them later. We're going to get all of our posts that are tagged featured research. We only want 6 of them. And then we're going to put all of the IDs of those posts is that in an array for no dupes, which we're going to use later. So we're going to get all the posts that are tagged for featured research, and we're going to get 6 of them. And then we're going to put all of those into, actually, we use all of these images almost everywhere in various things, and we pull them through in RSS feeds so that departments can use them as well. But yes, I totally get that point. So we try to share the same image sizes across as many of the front doors as we can. We definitely do try to do that. But yeah, there's going to be some images that we're not using. We do have our news hooked up to an S3 for all of the uploads, so they're just sitting on that Amazon S3. So at least they're not using up other space. So then again, and I have kept this super simple because everybody's display is going to be different. So basically, I'm just getting those and I'm echoing out what I want for the slideshow and I'm ending. So I've gotten those featured research stories. So then next, I'm going to go on. So on that research site, I also have all of those buckets down below where I'm saying, let's pull the Earth, Space, and Science, Earth and Space stories. So this is where I'm going to reset my query. And then I say, I want posts that are in the Earth and Space category, which right here is 694. I only want 3 of those posts, but I don't want any of those posts to be posts that were already in that slideshow. So that's what this query is doing on that page, is we're saying, you know, we want some more research posts. We want them to be about space and Earth science, but I don't want to duplicate any of the content that I've already shown in that slideshow. And then again, I'm going to echo it out. However you want to display that is totally fine. For the front end user, all they are doing when they are determining where something is going to show is they're going to check a box. So our editors and our writers, when they are posting a story, they check boxes to determine which websites and which front ends that this is going to show on. So here's an example. They've got a story, and so for this story, they're saying this needs to appear in MyVU. It needs to appear in releases, on the research site in the society and culture section, and it's also part of the strategic plan. And so we do not use, we don't use a lot of categories. We have probably 25 categories total. We use tagging for anything that is more granular than this right here. So then we go on to I need to speed through. one of the most important things that you're going to have to do if you try to do this is you must establish a brand hierarchy to determine what each individual story looks like. So the brand hierarchy that is still just one story, right? So you have posted one story. Now, while it can appear on all of those different front ends, and while you can pull those stories in through feeds and everything, when you actually go to that story, it's going to have to look like something. And so the brand hierarchy is what determines that. And this is where politics gets involved, because you have to determine what is the most important ultimate brand for your university news. Because again, a story can only look like one thing. So your single.php template in there is going to be what your individual story view is going to look like. So you can see here that we're saying, depending upon what category it's part of, is depending upon what header, etc., that we are going to be showing. So at Vanderbilt, our ultimate most important brand is research. So if something is ever categorized in any of the research categories, it is going to look like a research story. It can still appear on the MyVU website. It can still appear on the medical center website. But when you go to that individual story, it is going to look like a research story, because that is our ultimate important branding. So that is was the easiest thing for us to do politically, because for all of Vanderbilt, no matter whether you are the university, the medical center, an employee, research is one of our top priorities for the institution. So by making that our ultimate brand hierarchy, the one at the very top, it definitely helped with making it not as political, because we could say, well, research is important to the entire institution. So this story is about research, so it's going to be branded as research. Again, below that, we said the next one would be MyVU, because we wanted stories that were for just for employees. So if something was tagged for Vanderbilt News and MyVU, it's going to look like MyVU, because it's primarily pointed towards internal employee news. And so that's the next one. So then we go down through the different front doors, and for headers and footers, I think we only do 4 or 5 different front ends as the options for the individual story view. So this is where that brand hierarchy comes in, that you have to have that question answered very, very, very early, because you're going to have to be having conversations with all of the different people that are going to be putting content into this system. That someone on the MyVU team might be putting in a story, but the minute that story is designated as research, it's going to look like a research story. Interventions, yes, that's great. Again, we're going in here, we're getting the right header and the right footer, depending upon what it is. So then based on what type of story this is, we're going to have different word marks in navigation. We're going to have different sidebar content, different subscribe options, and we're going to have video player options. Some of the areas, they do not allow comments. So if it's for the medical center, they don't have comments turned on. So again, there's different options depending upon what the ultimate hierarchy is that a story lands on. So for instance, here is a research story that also is a MyVU story, that also is a Vanderbilt News story, but because it was put as part of research, it's going to look like research. On the right there is a story that's basically just Vanderbilt News. So that means this was not tagged research, it wasn't tagged MyVU, it wasn't tagged for the medical center. And so that's kind of what a default story that just goes in as a regular press release looks like. I'm talking really fast, I know, but we're running out of time. Here is a MyVU story that's also a video story over there on the left. So if we've got a video, then it's going to plop that video player up there. On the right, you've got a MyVU story that's just kind of a normal story, and it's not going to have the video player. And then we've got a medical center story, and so that's what those stories are going to be, are going to be about. This is where you're going to run into the most questions, and this is what's going to take you the most time, is having these conversations, or as Elaine says, interventions with all of the various people that you're wanting to pull into your systems. So really think strategically about, for your entire institution, what is what are the priorities for the institution, and that will help you determine what that brand hierarchy should be. So again, we've got everything merged. So then how are we using it? We're using it absolutely everywhere. And anybody that wants news, we say, great, here's your news tag. So our neuroscience program, they're going to pull through stories onto their websites that are tagged neuroscience. They don't have their own news section anymore. HR pulls through news that's tagged HR. HR actually has quite a few different tags that they pull in depending upon their different things. So again, they don't have their own news anymore. They're now using our news, and we can pull that through for them. In our templates, in our WordPress and our on the update templates for the departments and the schools, we have different displays of that tag content available. So people can pull it through as just a listing of news that's just kind of text only. They can pull it through with big thumbnails, little thumbnails. They can pull through really the big images. If they want to do their own slideshow based on a news tag, they can also do that. You can pull a video playlist based on videos that are tagged. So for instance, here's all the videos that we tagged with commencement. On our homepage, we pull items through that are tagged trending. And again, all of this is built into our CMS templates, is this ability to pull these news listings based on tags and categories. That's also something that will help this be a success for you, is making it super, super easy for all the clients that you work with to actually be able to use the content that's in your news system. If you're leaving it up to them to know how to pull this onto their websites, it's never going to happen. So then, how do you connect and keep users on their site? You show them more of what they want. So in ours, we are going to look for related stories. So if you're, again, on a story about breast cancer, we're going to try to get you to go to, we're going to try and get you to go to other related stories that are related to that content. So our bounce rate on our news site is actually fairly low. Because again, once they're on there, they're seeing other stuff, and we already know they're interested in this topic because they're reading this, and they're reading this story. So we want to keep them there. So we're going to keep pointing them at other stories that are related to that topic. Or again, we use tags heavily. So the user can click on any of the story tags and see a listing of all the stories specifically related to that topic. All of this stuff is like basic WordPress stuff too. Like all the tagging and everything, that's like WordPress unboxed, there it is, tagging's amazing, all those feeds are available. So much of this stuff isn't really super customized, it's just kind of taking advantage of it, and so our tagging is like tagging on steroids. We have people in our office that kind of maintain the tags to make sure that we don't have any duplicate tags. So for instance, and I'm sure this would never happen in any of your institutions, our chancellor's name is Nick Zeppos. And so we are always having to go in and clean up tags because we'll have Nick Zeppos, Nicholas Zeppos, Nicholas S. Zeppos, Chancellor Nick Zeppos, Chancellor Nicholas S. Zeppos. And so we keep reminding our editors, that if they just start typing in the tags, it's going to bring up what you're going to need. But we do end up having to go in and clean up, so that might be something that you're going to need to do, because obviously you want things to be always using the same tag if it's about that same topic. So we call that person the tag czar, and that's the person who kind of helps us to keep our tags under control, because I think we're at like 12,000 tags right now, because we tag every single faculty member that's involved, every funding agency, every department. Anytime any story is posted, we're tagging all of those things all the time. So we have these massive amounts of archives of very topic specific content. Bonus round. So this is bonus round stuff that you can be doing. Generate automatically mobile friendly HTML emails. I don't know about you, but if you have to do work on HTML emails, you probably want to jump out a window on a daily basis. So we have to do a lot of HTML emails. So whenever possible, we automate that because we don't want to be building out HTML emails. So we've got some page templates that build these emails for our editors. So we don't ever have to build these emails. every Monday and Thursday, a MyVU email goes out to all faculty and staff. So that goes out to the 29,000 people that work at Vanderbilt. And that used to be a manually curated email. Now it is all automatic. So what the editors do is the day before, they go to the URL, and the email is built based on stories that were tagged featured within the last 4 days. It's going to pull any MyVU featured media. And our video folks are so awesome because when they post a video in our WordPress instance, they make the featured image a GIF that shows kind of what the video looks like. So when we pull that through into an email, then the videos that are part of the email actually kind of look like they're moving. They're really cool. And that's our video folks that are just really, really awesome, and they're partners with us. We pull upcoming events, we pull stories tagged from HR. So again, this has saved us so much time. And again, these are all mobile friendly, so we don't have to worry about that issue. We send out a research news email. And again, you can also see here where we're using those different image sizes that we generate, because all of that comes into play for everywhere that we're using this. So every Friday morning, an email goes out to this big subscription list of people that are interested in what research is going on at Vanderbilt. So every Friday morning, the research editor pulls up this URL, and it's going to pull all of the research stories within the last 7 days. It's going to pull through the nice big featured image, the blurb, the link, blah, 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 and they can send that out mobile friendly. We don't have to touch it. That's my goal. Email template basics. Basically, we're going in and saying, you know, we want to get the last number of days in the certain number of category that's tagged this. So I've kind of written out where that function is that we're writing in the query here. I'm zooming through here. And then, you know, this is just because it's so painful to actually have to write tables in 2017. Or, you know, in 2012, it was painful to have to write table code. And it continues every year to be painful. But that's what we have to do for emails. So, you know, code your email however you want to, make it mobile friendly. You're writing it just like a normal WordPress template. You're just making it be mobile friendly. One easy thing you can also do is, again, because it's WordPress and you're building out the template, you can automatically append a Google Analytics campaign tracking to every URL that's in that email. So then you can track if people are actually clicking on those emails that you're sending out all the time. So that is super easy to do as well. So the next bonus round item would be, hey, I don't really want to create a customized email. I don't really want to do any of that stuff. So let MailChimp's RSS campaign do it for you. It is automagical. So MailChimp, if your list is less than, I think it's 2,000 subscribers for this, we can't use this for most of our emails. But some of our emails we can actually use this for. For totally no money at all, you can go on to MailChimp, hook your RSS feed up to it, and it will send an email every day to everyone subscribed with all of your news, which is handy. Did anyone else get disconnected from the video? I don't know. Micro formats, open graph tags, and Twitter cards, oh my. Definitely do this, and it is really, really not that hard. Get into your templates, and this is not the entire function that we've written. This is just a sample, but you can very easily add in all of the micro formats tagging, the Twitter card tagging, open graph for. Oh no, the video is still going, but the audio is going. I'm so sorry, guys. I'll keep talking for those that can hear me. If you're interested in this code, please just let me know, and I will send you the whole thing that we're using, and you can alter it for your usage. But this is a super easy way to control what your posts are going to look like when you post them on social media. So I'm getting the notice that I'm almost out of time. On social media, the Twitter cards, you know, you have to go onto Twitter and tell them that you're doing it, but it really makes all of your content look so much better. And again, these are really easy to implement. The next bonus round is accelerated mobile pages, AMP pages. Super quickly, this is kind of what is the big next thing for mobile websites that you want to have AMP pages. We enable this with a plugin, which Curtis is probably going to be laughing right now because I'm so anti-WordPress plugin, and I use the plugin for this. So this plugin is one of only 5 plugins that we have enabled on our WordPress instance. But it is really great, and we've edited it, and it's awesome, and it instantly enables AMP pages for everything, and it even gives you some options. So there's more info about AMP there. If you don't know what AMP is, I highly encourage you to read up on it because it's definitely going to be something we're going to all need to be paying attention to in the future. Give me all your data. This could be its own session all on its own. Okay, now you've merged all the things, but you still need to be able to pull analytics for the different front doors. So here's it might not be really clear why that would be complicated. So you have one story posted, and it's marked for research, my view, and video. And let's say you have the research vice provost say, hey, I want to see how well all the research stories did. Still that one URL, and you're not referencing anywhere in the URL that it's a research story. So we use Google Analytics content groups for this. And so then in our code, we can go through and we actually can tell it with the data layer, we can say, this story was posted as part of all of these categories. And so we want to assign all of these Google Analytics content groups so we can easily go into Google Analytics and we can pull up all the research stories or all the MyView stories. And stories can appear in multiple ones of those buckets, but we can easily see, you know, which areas are doing what they need to be doing. And again, this is the last 2 screens. And again, this is more bonus. Help content. We actually wrote a plugin that is site-specific help pages for our editors. And so it's how to do everything for our specific WordPress instances for all, you know, for all these different front doors and all of that stuff. We wrote how-to articles. So when they're logged into WordPress over there on the left corner, they can actually see how-to articles of how do I do this? How do I embed a YouTube video? How do I do the photo, you know, how do all the different photo dimensions work, etc. This takes a lot of time to write out this documentation, but any of you who have worked with end users know that anytime you can write really good documentation, it's going to save you time. So everybody's talking about my plugin thing. So because we write all of our own themes and everything, we write a lot of things into our actual functions file, which we have debated on pulling out into like a Vanderbilt plugin. But we don't use a lot of plugins because we'll see a plugin and we'll be like, well, I just want that one little thing out of the plugin. And so I will pull out the 2 lines that we want and I'll put that in the functions file. But again, Curtis and I have actually talked about this before too, I think, of the concept of why don't we just pull that into a plugin that we could then use across all the Vanderbilt themes. But for right now, that's why our plugin list is so low, is because we cherry pick exactly the functionality that we want. And so we don't just install plugins if we really only want like this one little tiny thing that it does. But again, so our functions file has a lot of stuff in it that's very, very specific to this new site. Okay, I've been trying to answer questions as we go along, but I'm going to Q&A. How do you like AWS? I've got, have you run into any cost issues? We really like AWS so far. I think we are at 57% of the way of moving all of our websites to AWS. So right now, we have not run into any cost issues. We are using the S3 for all of our files. And we have a really, really great sysadmin that manages the infrastructure for us. And he's been kind of taking care of a lot of that. So right now we aren't, but I can't give you a huge amount of details about exactly how our infrastructure is set up because I kind of let our sysadmin just run with it. And he'll run things by me, but I don't need to keep that information in my brain, so I don't. Sorry. How many editors do we have? We have 91 users as part of that instance, but I would say there's probably only about 12 to 15 people that are normally adding content in. And again, we are definitely a centralized campus now. We didn't used to be, but all of our magazine writers are all within one office. All of our public affairs officers, our news officers, everybody is in one big team. So that's kind of how many editors we have. How do you monitor and curate tag choices by all posting? Again, we have that tag czar, and so we talk to them, and we do a lot of education about when you're posting a new story. Please allow WordPress to kind of auto-complete your tags so that you don't use the wrong ones. Nothing is ever posted in the news without it having been gone through the editing process. So there is a very strict workflow editing process that happens before anything actually gets posted into WordPress. How do you manage editing privileges? If they are an editor, they can edit anything. We do have quite a few authors that obviously can only do their own stuff. And we also have a couple of custom roles. So like we have an editor who can manage the tags as well. And so she's in a custom role. The events calendar handled, our current events calendar is Helios, but we are in the process of moving to the events calendar WordPress plugin from Modern Tribe. So we're in the process of doing that. And that is good. The events calendar, we're pulling those through via tags. I'm interested in ways people are blending Omni Update with WordPress content. So if you go to any of our websites, you would not be able to tell unless you looked at the code whether the site was WordPress or Omni Update. We built all of our templates to be exactly the same on both platforms. So the choice of platform is entirely based on what functionality the client needs. Okay, and now if anybody has other questions, we're going to have to move to Slack because I have run out of questions. I have run out of time. So I will look at all these questions and I'll respond to them later. But thank you so much. And again, ping me on Twitter or on Slack or wherever if you have any questions, and I'll try to address all the questions that are here. Thank you guys. Bye.